All right. Welcome out.
Welcome back to another episode of All I Have to Say.
Welcome back. Oh man, people say things. A song just pops up in your head. Does that happen to you?
Yeah, all the time.
Okay. Like the old school songs. Do you know what that song is?
No.
Welcome Back, Carter. It's a show from back in this, like when I was a kid, and that was a big song. And someone actually redid that song for a more current song, hip hop song or something like that. I remember it being in it. And I was like, man, young people don't even know where that came from. So, all right, well, been another great week of things happening.
Yeah.
We've had some people that have been like popping in and asking questions, which is what we wanted. We said, hey, throw some questions our way.
Yeah.
And
So have a question.
yeah, I do. I have
hit
to
us up.
read. I have to read it though, because I want to read the way it was. So here's what they said. Touched based on how it took unity in workplace to make a change. What are your thoughts on the lack of feeling of community and its effects on mental health? I have a lot to say about this.
I also have a lot to say about this, so we might go to 40 minutes on this one.
You never know. You never know. So when I read it, what's your first thought? What comes to the mind right away?
Well, the lack of community's effects on mental health. You know, we were created to be social.
100%.
We were created for community. We were created for interaction with people. And I think that when you don't have it, you're obviously going to have some mental health issues. I think that as humans, as people, we struggle. We all have FOMO.
Fear of missing out.
And to a great extent, that extends to community. And it's hard when you don't have that in the workplace. It's hard to ever feel accomplished in the workplace. Yeah. It's hard for you to feel successful.
Yeah. And we'll take it because it's not just about workplace. It's just about like our overall like being a part of community. So you made a comment about people were created for community. So do you believe in introverted, extroverted labels?
I believe in introverted, extroverted tendencies.
Thank you. I like that.
Because I am not 100% extroverted all the time.
Yep.
But I do. I have a very I have a very extroverted job where I have to talk to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I have a very extroverted position in the church where I have to talk to a lot of people and be in front of people all the time. But when I'm not doing that, I'm a very introverted person where I'm like, I'm a homebody more than anything. I'm like, I want to be at home. I want to be chill. I'd rather have people over than go to other people's houses, things like that. Like those are like extroverted, introverted tendencies, not the label of you're an extrovert or an introvert.
Yes.
We have tendencies that, like, we have situations, I think, that we prefer one way or the other.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you, but like I always like to be at home because I feel more comfortable. Mm-hmm. I can kick you out.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Or just we had guests over last week, the week before last, and I said, you don't have to leave, but I'm going to bed. And they're like, okay. And I was like, I'm just being honest. I got to work tomorrow, and I don't care if you hang out. Lock the door when you leave.
Yeah.
I'm going to bed.
Yeah. Yeah, I know people like that. Were you like that as a young person though, as a kid? Like homebody, wanted to be at home, really couldn't.
No.
Okay, see.
Like when I was younger, like when I was in my teens, I was like, I want to go. I want to be somewhere else. I want to be somewhere else. And then like when I became like probably when I first got my first apartment, I was like, come over to my house. Like,
right.
I had people over all the time. And now that I'm married and have a life and have a work schedule and do all sorts of things, I'm like, all right, you can come over like once every other week. We can have people over.
We have some parameters. We have some limitations.
We need us time.
So I asked the question the way I did is because I think that most of the time as young people, we have this thing of like, I've got to get out of my environment, my household. I've got to go experience things. I also need to go where it's better than where it is where I am.
Right. The grass is greener.
Absolutely. And I think that as an adult, and even more so the older you get, you're just like, I really like the safety of my home. I like, even if it's chaos, right? I say it that way because our granddaughter, she's the oldest of four, right? And so 3 under 4 years old. Yeah, it's chaos. But yet, like she'll come over here and she gets homesick, and which is interesting to me because she loves to come here and hang with Mimi and Poppy, and she loves the quietness, and like she gets a lot of attention because she's the only one. Right. But there gets a point where she's like, I need to go home where it feels safe and comfortable.
Where you used to. And I think that part of it is as we get older, we like change less.
I agree with that 100%.
I mean, I think that like even from like in the last like 5 years of my life, I'm like, I like change less than I did 5 years ago.
Yeah, totally agree. So let's talk about the lack of community and its effect on mental health. So the first thing that I thought about when I read that question was the like button.
Okay.
On social media, right? There's several documentaries, but there's one that we have actually played several times in our community here. To just the desire to be approved, included, valued, and seen is at such a high level, and it increased drastically with the creation of the like button, right? If I post something and it gets 100 likes, I feel seen and valued, approved, right? If it gets 3, I'm like, oh, well, it wasn't good content. And today, right now, we have a lot of young people. I mean, there's connection to suicide. There's connection to eating disorders. There's connection to self-harm, right? There's connection to unhealthy coping mechanisms, which is, addictions of some form, and not just drugs and alcohol, food, right? Body image mentality, struggle with that. But that for the like button, we're seeing young people who will post something, and if it doesn't get a certain amount of likes, they'll delete it altogether.
Yeah.
And, as I'm learning this, the co-creator of the like button, she actually has teenage kids now. Mm-hmm. They're not allowed to have social media of any way, shape, or form.
That's crazy.
Someone who created and was a creator of social media, right? Worked with Facebook, she was at the front lines of Facebook at the beginning of it, and was part of that whole like button process, is completely out of the industry and will not let her own kids partake in any kind of social media because she sees the detrimental effect it's having on mental health.
Yeah. And that's where it all starts. I think that's where it comes together with the community, is because we're so connected to everybody
but we're not connected
because of phones. We're so connected to everybody that we have devalued personal connection because I can send a text message real quick and get a response of a question, but I can't get your personal feelings about things through text messages.
It's big part of why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Right? To have conversation about real topics and get each other's feedback and responses and not just texting back and forth or a snap back and forth or a Marco Polo or whatever. But the social media aspect of stuff is that it's a little bit, there's a lot of fake, right? They took 17 pictures with 3 different filters to get the perfect shot.
I like when we say things at the exact same time.
We're on the same. I got, so for a while, social media platform called TikTok, right? I started doing a lot of videos, and I started getting a lot of followers,
Right.
and it put such pressure to like go create a good video, have a good content. It looked good. It be smooth. It kind of look professional, for the lack of a better term. It'd be super creative, have all these different things. And it was like, a Monday theme, a Tuesdays. I mean, we had a theme for every day. And it was taking so much time because I would like shoot it and it wasn't good. Or I'd have to do multiples and try to put them together. And there was all these scenarios. And I finally got to a point where I was like, I'm not even enjoying what I'm doing. When I first started, it was just because I was enjoying what I was doing. I wanted people to see what I was doing.
Right.
Right. And it's silly what I was doing, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It's literally killed my enjoyment for what I started in, like what I was doing in the beginning, to the point that I was like, if I post a video once or twice a week, that's about it.
Yeah.
And I have no desire. And I've met people all around the world. And fact is, I have a group of guys that have become pretty good acquaintances, pretty good friends, right?
Because of your hobby.
Because of the hobby
that you were using on TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, now, I said to him one time, I was like, I probably need to leave the group because I don't like ever post videos now. And and that's not the case. Solid quality dudes. The interesting thing is that I have people all around me, right? I mean, as a pastor, you have all kinds of people are looking. All eyes are on you. They're waiting for you. People are waiting for you to mess up. They're waiting for you to, like, I don't know, whatever, say something, do something. I feel like sometimes people are just waiting for you, and that weighs heavy on you. But I have a circle of friends here that's very small, right? And then my community expands through my acquaintances, people I love. I mean, I love all of the people that are in my life, but they don't necessarily know the anguish or the I don't want to say mental thoughts, but it's these thoughts that, like, no one really cares about me. No one is really concerned about me. If I wasn't here tomorrow, no one would miss me. Those kinds of, like, what do we do? What am I doing all this for? What's the end game? God, why did you, why call me into something that is really pretty tough? In fact, as I posted, I shared a post. It was a pretty long one. It's called "Ministry is Weird," and it was this whole concept of, like, what you feel as a pastor from those around you.
Right.
And I didn't post it to get any kind of, like, accolades. Like, I didn't want people to be like, "Oh, but we love you," and, like, that wasn't the point of it. The point of it is that your life can look phenomenal on the outside, and yet we all still have some form of, our mental health is at risk and being attacked all the time.
Right.
In everything that we do. So, I think about the like button. I think about social media as, like, I remember when Facebook was college only, right? You had to have a .edu email address to even get a Facebook account. And I remember being an adult going, well, I want to be on there. I want to see what people are doing.
Right.
And when we first got on there, it was like connected with family, connected with old friends, connected with old classmates. It's like, this is awesome. This is great. And then watching it become to what it is now, it's like, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think that just from the pastor standpoint, there's an expectation to be perfect and to not have emotions,
Absolutely.
not have doubts,
say all the
not
right
have
things.
fears. You have to say the right things. You have to do everything perfect. I mean, I remember, and this is real. I mean, I lost my dad, And the Friday after we buried him, we miscarried, and I led worship that Sunday.
Yeah.
And I remember getting through like 2 songs. Like I walked in and I was like, I have nothing to give. We're gonna get through the songs. That's my whole goal.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
And I like 2 songs in, I was like, I'm done. I can't. And Doug, one of our the elders,
Mm-hmm.
he said something, and I was a mess. And he's like, he said, we all expect our pastors to be perfect. The reality is they're still going through stuff.
Absolutely.
And I was like, I almost felt called out by that by itself. I was like, can I be real?
Yeah, you can.
And it was like, it was just like it was a weird thing where it was like, it wasn't like, and I'd have no hard feelings seeing Doug, but it was like we have an expectation for our pastors to be perfect. And that was the reality of the situation, is like, we expect every Sunday morning for us to come in and be perfect.
It's true.
And, we do everything right. We say everything right. And then we're like, but we have lives.
Absolutely.
And we're going through things too. And I think when you transition that to even the work side of it, is that, we all have lives and things we're going through outside of work. I mean, I talked in a previous podcast about a friend whose girlfriend's dad just tried to commit suicide. And he came in this week and was like losing it. I mean, one day it was just losing it. And I pulled him in the back in the office, and I was like, "What's going on, man?" And he was like, "I'm so stressed out because my girlfriend just is like, I don't know what to do with my dad. I don't know if I should. I don't know that he's worth keeping in my life. But he's also my dad."
Absolutely.
And I was like, and he's like, and she's stressing me out, and it has been so hard because I told her, sometimes I know you love him, but you gotta. Is he doing anything? Is he bringing any value into your life? And that's hard to say about, especially about your dad. But it's the truth, I think that in community and work, do the people in your community bring value to your life?
Yeah. Which goes back to, we talked about a while back about the whole calling you up, right?
Right.
Which is great where you're going, because that's what I've been thinking the whole time, was like, when we talk about community, what does community look like? Today's culture of community is different than my culture. Let's talk about our teenage years, right? What community looks like. Whether you're homeschool, public school, private school, I don't care what school education you're getting, you have community, and it's a very orchestrated community, and it's in a time of your life where you are learning who you are, and you're gathering and gaining self-identity. Right. And so you your community bounces around. There are some who will say, man, like, we've been friends since second grade, and they are solid good friends. And yet you have other friends where you've I had my grade school friends, and then we had middle school, and then we had high school, and then we had after high school, and so you have some people that you have some people who will get that lifelong friend, have solid community that you can trust and rely on. And then you have other people who have kind of bounced around all over the place when it comes to friend, trying to land on good, solid community. And I say it that way because, talking to young people today versus when I was a kid, our community in high school level was very interactive. No one really, we all kind of liked each other, right? My whole class got along We liked each other. There were things from time to time, but we spent time in the high school parking lot hanging out and talking. You were at school functions. We spent a lot of time driving, cruising, so you had a lot of interaction in that way, and so you did things that maybe were goofy, and people would bring it back up as, maybe, remember that time? You remember that time? I don't hear near as much as those. Remember those times, because of if your community is digital, you're not having that quality time, or those things that you regret, or the things that you make memories about, or the things that you learn about true character with people, which then gives you those lifelong friends. And I'm convinced that good lifelong friends are the friends that bring value and actually make you a better person. They don't just go, yeah, you're right, you should be angry about that. Or, yeah, let's talk about that, whatever it is. And so, I think when you couple the word community and the impact on mental health, I honestly don't know if today's culture fully understands how to have community.
That's fair. I think back, and thinking about old friends, I think that, and the value of good friends, I think of, think about this is going to be hard for you.
Okay. Jeez.
Think about your friends from grade school.
Well, that's not hard. I got pictures of faces.
All right. Now, how many of those people are you still in contact with?
A few, very
One.
few.
It's one for me.
One for you.
Yeah, one person that I
on the regular
in regular connection.
Okay, then none. There's none. I have connection, but there's none.
Regular community with that we still talk every year, at least once a month probably.
Okay, that's still more than me. I mean, there are some that I have interaction with because of Facebook.
Right.
That's the extent of it.
That's the extent of it. No, I have one friend that we've been friends since I was in first grade, kindergarten, first grade, somewhere in there, that we still hang out. I'm actually hanging out with him Friday.
Okay.
We still talk. We still care about each other. And every time we get together, we end up talking about life, talking about how's life going, how are you really, how's your marriage, how's those things, and we actually catch up and he we give each other advice and talk about this is what I would do in that situation, and that's a valuable friendship to me.
Absolutely.
Now, I have other friends that I met in high school that I'm still friends with.
Okay.
But I think that that's a very small, select group.
It is.
And that I still, on a regular basis, have connection with and, interaction with, and love them, love their families, love their kids. And we spend time at their houses and But the point I'm trying to make is that your community changes constantly.
Well, yeah, because as you were saying, I was thinking, well, how many of your friends would you have interaction with now had they not maybe moved away or moved out of the community?
I still think the person I'm talking about lives an hour and a half away, and I still have regular contact with him.
That is solid community.
So that is the community I'm talking about. And then I have people that have come into my life later that I have community with, but I would say that a good portion of them have come into my life in the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
Where it's and they call me up. They call me, they add value to my life. And not that everything has to be about you adding value to someone else's life, because then your friendship becomes transactional. And I don't think
absolutely.
that's how friendship should be either.
No, I get it.
But
I understand what you're saying.
As far as community in your workplace and how that affects your mental health, I mean, I think that it is, to an extent, what value do they add to your life?
I personally totally believe that it's what value do they bring to your life.
And
I have had great friends I've had people that I have called great friends, and yet they weren't necessarily the people that were like deep friends that called me up, that didn't challenge me to further my walk, to be a better husband, to be a better father. We had a good time together, right?
Okay.
We interacted and we enjoyed being in each other's presence. Like, we enjoyed being around them, but it wasn't necessarily the calling up that we talked about before. It wasn't necessarily the conversations that challenged and said, "Hey, that's not okay."
Yeah.
I think that I still value those acquaintances and those friendships. I loved our memories that we have together, but I do think that as time has gone, from a mental health standpoint, like, I have to have people that bring value into the conversations I have, the moments that I'm doing, the just the in life moments. Um, Not that I need everybody around me to be like, I'm going to raise you up to be a great Christian. You're going to be such a man of God. Like, that's not what I'm getting at. Like what you were talking about, which is that everybody needs a couple people that you can go, man, we could not talk for a couple months and then talk and pick up exactly where we left off.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a better person when I leave because they encouraged me, they challenged me, they gave me advice, they took advice. It was such a life-giving interaction that it's okay if I don't see them but once a month or a couple months. But I think you need other people that you are around on the regular that are not draining.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that in itself is another thing, is the people around you, are they draining you?
Yeah.
Instead of, like, John Barrett,
lifter or sifter.
Are they somebody to lift you up or sifting you down?
Yeah.
But are they draining you? And in the workplace, you cannot control that to an extent. You can control your amount of interaction with them.
Yeah.
And I would say, to answer the question, that's where we're really trying to get to. We've unpacked a lot of stuff about mental health and community. But in the workplace specifically, how does community affect your mental health? And to answer that, it does affect it quite drastically, but I think you have to choose. You can't choose. You're forced to interact with them, but you can choose the level of interaction. You can choose the level of how they're affecting you, and you can choose a group of people that you're working with that are going to lift you up, who are going to encourage you.
I'm going to challenge that thought for a second.
What?
So,
what's your challenge?
Okay. You can choose, but there are some people that have more compassion or more empathy just because it comes natural. And it's hard for them to just choose and say, I'm not going to interact with those people. Because they can be genuinely concerned, about their personal health, their family situation, maybe their financial situation. Like, there are some people in this world that have just been given that gift of mercy and compassion. And I can say to them, just choose to walk away. Just don't get caught up in their drama. Like, just turn your back to them. And they can't necessarily do that.
Well, I'm not saying turn your back on them. I'm saying limit your interactions with them.
Yeah.
Because what you can't do is take on their problems.
Exactly. And so that's why I posed it the way that I did, because I wanted to dig in a little bit deeper for the person.
You can't take on everybody's problems.
Right. And I think that that's the line you have to know, how to be an empath, how to have mercy for someone, like how to have compassion for someone and yet be able to lay down their problems and go, I'm not picking them up and carrying them. I can't emotionally, spiritually, and physically do it.
And I think there's also, we're getting close, but I think there's also a split that you have to make between work and life.
Yeah, I
You
agree.
have to be able to separate them to an extent. And when you spend a lot of time with the people you work with, and then then you hang out with them outside of work, I think there's almost a carryover of the stress, of the frustrations and emotions, that the things that go on at work are going to bleed over into your personal life, which then makes you feel like you can't escape.
This is so one of the things that comes, as you're saying it, one of the things that comes to my mind is like, this is why I encourage people to get plugged into a church and then get active in a church. Because I think about, what about the single person who's just young enough that's moved out of the house, but doesn't do anything except for go to work and go home?
Yeah.
Their only community then it is at work. And so now you've got this impact on your mental health of, I'm working with toxic people, or I'm working with unstable people, or I'm working, whatever it is, I'm working in the middle of you name it, right? Whatever it is. And then you go home and you don't have anybody, you don't have anything to like help you walk out the thoughts that are going on in your head and the struggles that you're seeing and the things that you're doing. And so, I know a lot of times people have, I'm not saying church is the answer to mental health. Community is, so we say this a lot in the world, is the opposite of addiction is connection. In other words, if you're connected to people that want to be sober, or want to not struggle with that addiction, I don't care what it is. Maybe it's food, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're someone who, like, I for years I ate to meet an emotional need that I had, right? So I was addicted to food.
Right.
So in that, I needed to be around people who could say, hey, don't eat that. You don't need it,
Yeah.
right? Speak truth to me. But they needed to understand what I was going through. They needed to understand. I'm saying all that to say is that if you don't have community, you've got to find healthy community, right? Even at the workplace, you got to pick and choose, like you were saying. It's like, you don't have to get so involved in someone else's life, but if that's your only community, then again, back to our very beginning, the whole introverted, extroverted. Oh, I'm introverted, so I'm not going to go out and try anything. I'm not going to go do something. I'm not going to go get involved in something. I'm not going to go try to meet new people because I'm introverted.
Yeah.
And so I asked that question purposefully because I agree 100% with you. I think I think most people have both tendencies depending on what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And so mental health can be like, it's such a big topic. It'll probably come up often in our podcast because I think that it has such an impact on so many things in our life that we don't realize it a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know how to talk about it. And a lot of times there's just frustration. It's like, I know it's an issue. I know it's a thing. And yet I don't know how to like land it. And so I'm hoping that as time goes, we'll continue to unpack things that will help people walk through that. Because, work should be a place where, everybody has to work. You gotta make money.
It's a necessity.
It is. I mean, if you want to meet the 4 requirements of life, which is housing, right, transportation, clothing, and food. It's the 4 necessities for your life. If you want to meet the 4, you're going to have to work.
Right.
And so, you're not going to find we talk about people that have like. So when I first came out of high school, I wanted to become a sports psychiatrist because what I was aware of, even professional athletes struggle with mental health. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I'll go sit and talk to them and see if I can help them work through their mental health stuff. But I'm saying that because, we did a podcast about, the blending of a secular artist with a Christian artist in songs, right? Mm-hmm. We see people who are, by culture standard, have it all, lots of money, material items, living quote unquote their dream job, and yet their mental health is a mess because of the people around them, because of decisions they made, like all these things that they're doing. So just because grass is green on the other side, as you said earlier, right? Mm-hmm. Just job's not going to help your job's not going to be the answer to your mental health. Any hobby, there's all these things that are not, but community and good community, solid community that draws you up, that calls you in to be a better person, that's going to have a huge impact.
Yeah. And especially as, I think one last thing I'd like to hit is, as a leader in your workplace, how do you affect the community in your workplace?
Well, as we said before, just saying hello to someone. Good morning, right?
Yeah.
That was your thing a while back, right? You had one person who was like, you didn't say good morning to me, and was counting it.
But how do you create better community if you're a leader and the community's toxic?
Well, here's my answer. I'm going to give an example. I think it's through expectation. Let me give you a personal example. So you know how I feel about sentence enhancers, which is cussing and language. So I spent many years in the construction industry. Construction workers have quite the reputation.
A foul mouth.
Foul mouth, eyes, how they treat women, how they do stuff, right? So when I got into a role where I was leading, like whether I was the one actually like the foreman on the job or became a project manager, this is what I did. I laid the expectation by saying, hey guys, we're professionals.
Right.
You get paid, you get paid a very good wage because you are technically considered a skilled tradesman. Mm-hmm. You are a professional. Fact is, you're considered a master. Once you have 10,000 hours in a trade, you're considered a master of that trade. 5 years. 5 years is how you become a master. So I would look at these younger ones who were just coming into the industry, and I would say to all of them, I say, you're training, you as a skilled master tradesman, you are training these people below you. So now you are considered a skilled professional in that you're training people. You're not just training them how to do a skill set, you're training them how to carry themselves, how to interact with people. And I would say, listen, your language is huge. I know that we have a reputation to talk like this, but what happens if we change the mindset of people by how we carry ourselves in a professional manner, right? When you go into your doctor, you're not expecting him to drop all of the foul language around you.
Right.
He's going to talk to you in a very professional manner. He's going to talk to you in a calm manner, right? He's going to give you very clear information. He's going to know what he's talking about. So I would challenge them and say, and I didn't use the terminology back then, calling you hires. Like you're better than what you think you are, right? You're actually better and more than what you're allowing yourself to be. Look at who you are and where you are.
Right.
And so I would put it really out there and say, hey, we don't talk like that. This is how we, I don't want to hear you ever say something about a woman that walks by. It's wrong. All right. You have a wife at home, and I hate that your marriage is unhappy. If there's anything I could do to help with that, but you're only making it worse on your mind and your heart by saying those things. And so I would honestly, I just took a really bold stance in going, hey, listen, I'm calling you up. I'm saying that's not okay. And I use the language, you're a professional. You get paid to be a professional. People see you as a professional. You're a skilled tradesman. You're now training people underneath you. So your language, so not only teach them how to do something, but teach them how to talk, teach them how to walk, teach them how to carry themselves in a manner of not pride, but proud of what you've accomplished.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what you're saying is community in the workplace starts with the culture of leadership.
100%. 100%. Absolutely.
And it starts from the top down.
It does. If it's not important at the top, it will not trickle down.
It has to start from the highest level of your workplace.
Yeah. Okay, you said that. That reminds me, when we talk about mental health, right? I will meet with people, especially law enforcement, and I'll say to the whatever, I'll like, hey, so what are you doing to make sure that your officers are, getting mental health care? They're dealing with all this trauma every day. They're dealing with this interaction. That's heavy on them. What are you doing? And if I have the top guy says, oh, my guys are fine, they don't need anything, that tells me right away that it's not a priority to him or her, and their language is not something that they convey downwards to say, hey, this is important to us. Right? Versus you take a big corporation and they have a mindset of, it's important for us, whatever it is, it's important for us to give back to the community.
Right.
It's a priority that we serve and give back to the community. What happens? It trickles down because they create work days. They create moments where they go serve. And then someone who maybe walked in the situation was like, I don't want to go paint a house. I don't want to go do something. But after they have that feeling of like serving someone and giving back, and they see like how bad someone's living or how rough it is, it begins to change who they are inside and go, I'm being selfish, but it took the person at the top to go, this is what we do. This is a priority for us. This is how we do this. And I was thinking about you the other day, or a while back when you said something about the, that just how greeting someone, that I thought about that a lot. I'm like, I'm pretty intentional, but I'm like, I can always do better, because if I lead the charge and people see and hear me do it, then I'm hoping that they will do the same things, right? And I have to do it first. I have to be the lead. I say this all the time. If I want something to be done, I can't just say, I want you to do it. I actually have to do it as well. Right? So
you have to set the expectations and create the culture. And it's hard to come in and create a new culture in a workplace. I think that, but it has to start, you have to get everybody on board.
Absolutely.
And, find the community in your workplace that's going to support you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there are multiple communities within a workplace.
There is, absolutely.
So,
all right. Well, are we offend? Can we offend?
I don't think we can.
I don't think we can offend, defend, or you know what? I can recommend that you be aware of your mental health in your community and your scenarios, and you be very intentional on what you allow yourself to be a part of.
Yeah. Be aware of what you allow to come into your life.
Absolutely.
And the people you allow to come in your life, and just choose the right ones. So.
That's right. All right. With that,
all I have to say, have a great day.
That's right. We're out.